few questions related to economic development marketing. Does this budget contain any funding for the Startup New York advertising?
Yes, it does have an appropriation for $44.5 million.
Okay, and is that all directed to startup, or is that a part of the overall economic development marketing?
It's for various, it's basically a lump sum, and it's various uses.
Do you know if
No,
one of the...
I'm sorry, if I could just add that 60%, no more than 60% of the funds can be used to promote Startup New York outside of New York, but it includes some of the projects that would be included is the Global New York, Open for Business, and Startup New York advertising and promotion campaigns.
One of the things in recent days, we learned that some of our casinos that are in the state had looked for some possible support, and in fact, some of that was focused on marketing or information dollars. Are any of these dollars going to that, or is there any other place within the budget that any support for the casinos are included?
No, that is not done here.
We talked on the previous bill some on the opioid crisis, and is there an amount of money within this budget that is dedicated to the heroin epidemic and opioid crisis that we have in the state?
Within this budget, there's approximately $250 million for opioid-related services, treatment.
I'm sorry, how much again?
Approximately $250 million.
And is that similar as it's been before? I know some of the question about the stewardship dollars and where they were going.
It's about a $15 million increase from where the governor had proposed in his executive budget.
Well, one of the programs that you and I heard some testimony about at the budget hearings was a local county mental health departments and local sheriffs working for some jail-based substance abuse disorder treatment. That was not an initiative in the governor's initial budget. Did funding for that program survive in the final budget?
Yes, yes, it did. I could, if you would wait a moment, I could tell you the dollar amount.
I would appreciate that. I know they've been asking for a significant number so that it would be statewide. And so do we know if this is their dollars for demonstration or targeted counties, or is it a statewide program, and how much?
3.75, and the locations to be determined at a later date.
I know here in Albany County there's been a program that showed a significant reduction in recidivism rates, and certainly a lot of the people who come in and out of our jails end up being people with substance abuse, and obviously may end up with dealing with some of the heroin and opioid problems. And so certainly, hopefully this is something that we can have an impact in this state. Jumping over to some of the area in human services, I had noticed that there's a $5 million new appropriation in the Office of Children and Family Services for human services organizations, but it's a lump sum. Do we have any idea what those dollars are going to be used for?
I think that later in the year, there will be a resolution that will sub-allocate that lump sum
All right.
amount to various programs throughout the state.
We'll look forward to seeing where those go. And do you know if there's going to be a application process or whatever for that, or don't we know yet?
I think we'll be assessing the needs around the state, take input from members who know their communities, and provide in a resolution ways to service throughout the state individuals.
Thank you. In the there's a $130 million for child care development block grant reauthorization. And a question arises whether that's going to be enough money to cover the costs of new federal child care standards.
Yes, we do believe so. We allocate up to $80 million to address the federal child care compliance standards, as well as have funding for at least $10 million to supplement local funding for additional child care slots, with the remainder being applied to funding for the new child care market rate, which will become effective in October of this year.
Seeing as this is the aid to localities bill, I can't go through without asking a question that I ask annually. We talked a little bit on the last bill about mandate and Medicaid relief. Do we see anything here where we're providing relief to our local municipalities for mandate relief? Do we see anything? I know municipalities ask me regularly, local towns, villages, as well as our counties and schools.
Well, in this budget, we have a CHIPS increase of $55 million. We have child welfare restorations of $17 million. Community college base aid increase, which I think we discussed earlier, is $6.3 million, and payments to municipalities that host SUNY residential campuses, $1.1 million.
So we've done some things with dollars that may take some of the burden off. Anything, excuse me, on the regulatory side itself, or just lifting some of the responsibilities that we might just increase the cost due to those extra work we put on our municipalities?
Just to add one to the prior question, we did eliminate the local match for the community service block grants, but as it relates to regulation, I'm not aware of changes in regulation in this bill.
That change to the local match could make a significant difference as long as you know, the counties or the municipality are eligible for that. So I'm sure that will be appreciated.
Yes.
But nothing on the other side.
No.
Let's jump to just in the health care. I know that the governor proposed creating a new health care shortfall account of $1 billion. From what we have so far, we would sense that that's been eliminated. We know it has from the HICRA portion. So are we no longer expecting to receive the funds through the potential conversion of insurance companies from that?
There will be,
For-profits?
I anticipate there will be a proposal that we'll be able to discuss when that will be contained within the revenue bill. So
Okay,
I'd
so
prefer to
later
wait
on,
till
we,
then.
so maybe I will hold my questions about that until then. The essential plan, formerly the basic health plan, is part of the ACA that would provide more affordable coverage for low-income families. And this fall, or this past fall, a presidential executive order eliminated the cost-sharing reduction payments, which are what New York used to help partially fund the plan. So how can New York move the value-based payment quality improvement program into the essential trust fund?
Well, in terms of the finances of that, the governor has, executive DOB has figured out how to continue with the essential health coverage without having a cost implication in this budget.
Is there a concern? So if we look at it and say, well, what if there's a federal audit that says that they come to the conclusion that those funds are being used to find room under the Medicaid global cap, and even if there currently is now law against moving those?
We are pretty confident, or the executive is pretty confident that there would not be inappropriate use of those dollars, those federal dollars, but if there were an audit and it was determined that it was, we would obviously there have at times in the past been those kinds of findings, and we would have to address it in a future budget.
Thank you very much.